Welcome back to the Derek Loudermilk Show. This is the 5 levels of abundance, how to do what you need to do when you need to do it. That's our definition of abundance that we're working with. And this is the 5th level. Today we're going to be talking about barter and trade as another way of achieving abundance, as another way of doing what you want or what you need when you need to do it. So the image I want you to hold in your mind is that of either like a tribe, like a native tribe somewhere, where most of the economy is done in bartering. Or let's say a community, like a commune, where everybody's getting what they need, but they're not using money. And so there's different ways of bartering, of trading, to get your basic needs met. Now I think this actually may be more important than you think because of the dramatic increase of fiat money printing around the world. Because of the pandemic, central banks have printed a ton of money, which eventually is going to make prices go way up. And some things will get so scarce, in addition to all the supply chain shortages, lumber, computer chips, all these different things that we're experiencing shortages of. Sometimes you won't even be able to use money to get what you need. So that's where these other levels of abundance come in, and in particular, bartering. Now, let's say something happens like a giant snowstorm and the grid goes down, or a hack and the pipeline goes down, both of which have happened, right? And you just can't get the things you need. And what we're talking about here is not your luxury items, your iPhones, your things like that. We're talking about going back to the tribal times, the commune times. You need food, water, shelter, energy, fuel, these types of things. So largely when you're thinking of bartering, these are going to be more of the, as I see it, the basics, the things that are going to help you survive if, we have 30 days without power, or if, the whole system collapses, all these types of things that the preppers, the survivalists really prep for. Now, another thing that's happening right now that makes barter an important thing to think a little bit about is the Great Reset. So you probably also heard of the Great Currency Reset, and this kind of ties in with the money printing. But if we are shifting, if dollars and euros fail, or if they're transitioned out because they want to move to a digital central bank currency, or because they want to move to Bitcoin, or because they want to make a new gold-backed currency, or something like that, there's going to be a transition period where stuff isn't working as perfectly as it is now. You might not be able to get money out of the bank. All of these things, right? Prices may skyrocket, maybe 10,000 times more expensive than it is now before things even back out. So having things you can barter, knowing in advance what you can barter, is going to be really good. So bartering both your skills and your physical stuff, your objects, your goods, so that you can get what you need, but also help your community, right? Your neighbors, your friends and family. Knowing your value and the types of things that you can barter and what people need is going to be an important thing to think about, I think, in advance. And before you talk about some specifics, before I give you some suggestions about what you can barter, if you'll remember, I'll tell you the story of the guy, the red paperclip guy. And some of you may remember this guy. It was about 10 years ago now. He started off with a red paperclip, and he was trading. This was a common game that especially Mormon kids used to play in college, where they would trade either for something bigger or something better, and they would go do these scavenger hunts, because Mormons, typically are not drinking and partying, but so they're coming up with games instead they can play. And so they're playing this game where you have to start with something small and then you trade for something bigger and better. And this red paperclip guy started with a red paperclip and traded his all the way up to a house. And one of the keys was really knowing what people wanted, because I watched the documentary about how he did it, and one of the last things, I believe he traded a role in a movie for a house. So this kid in this village in Canada wanted to be in Hollywood, and so the village actually got the house, the town, and traded the house that was, I guess, owned by the town, so this kid could be in this Hollywood movie. So, but how did he get the role for the Hollywood movie? He traded a very rare collectible snow globe to a famous rock star, because he knew this guy was a collector of these rare snow globes, and he found one, and he was able to trade it. And so he was finding things that you wouldn't necessarily say you'd be able to just go and buy or acquire, but you're finding something that's really valuable to somebody and to the right people. So you're kind of doing a bit of matchmaking. And we did this same thing. My wife and I, when we were dating, we decided to play this game for fun, and we didn't get all the way up to a house. I think our goal was to actually not buy, but to trade up to an airplane because we thought that would be really cool. But we started with a green rubber band, and we made, I don't know, 7 or 8 trades, and we traded for a keychain, and then we traded for a book, and then we traded for a few other things, and we eventually got a really nice sort of high-tech climbing jacket, which was probably worth $300. But to prove that you can, for the right person, be making these trades, exchanges, without money being involved, and sort of increasing the value of what it is you're holding. So let's go back to our definition. Abundance, being able to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And if you think back to when the settlers and the Indians were trading, the settlers would come with knives and axes and spyglasses and jewelry and things like that. Things that they knew the Indians were going to value because they couldn't make them, right? They didn't have metal works. They didn't have foundries to make the metal stuff. So they wanted to trade these finished goods, and they were trading for food, for pelts, for things like that. And they were both getting their basic needs met, right? So if you don't have money, or if the cost of money is too expensive, right? We're going back to trading to get basic needs met, to do what you need to do when you need to do it. So if you have some skills, what are some things that are really good to trade? So if shit hits the fan, right? Being a financial advisor or a cycling coach or a virologist is probably going to be less valuable than a carpenter or a doctor, or these things that can be immediately useful to people, somebody that can grow things. And in the bigger picture, this whole abundance series also ties in with being resilient. And in the bigger picture, if you can be resilient with your food and energy and water and things like that, then it's much more likely you're going to have enough to trade with, enough to barter and exchange, which is the thinking behind why my family, we grow mushrooms, we grow food, we catch rain in rain barrels, we know how to forage for wild vegetables, wild mushrooms. So an excess of these things we could be trading with our neighborhood, just with our neighbors. If we have a ton of tomatoes, which I'm already starting to see, right? You can trade tomatoes for things with your neighbors. One of the very simplest things, because I'm a man, I'm fairly big. I can lift heavy things. I can move things. I can do manual labor. That's always going to be useful as a thing to trade. But I have slightly more advanced skills, like I can work on bikes. I can fix things. I can repair things around the house. So that's a skill that's going to be really valuable in a lot of different situations. Another example would be both my wife and I are Reiki masters, right? So we can help heal people in certain situations. That's something that you can barter and trade with. Another economy that's occurring to me that's a barter-based economy is, think about prison, right? Their currency is cigarettes and maybe books and other contraband items that they're using, right? There's probably a set cost, right? Like a certain favor is going to cost you a pack of cigarettes in prison. And I have no idea exactly what the going rate is, but it's a cashless barter-based system. So, if you have cigarettes, right? If you have alcohol, if you have contraband, that can also be something that you can barter with. One of the last things I'll mention, because it's actually a form of money, but precious metals. And my favorite happens to be junk silver. And when I mean junk silver, it's not pure silver. It's not, 0.999% pure silver, but, old silverware, forks and knives, and old quarters and dimes pre-1964. These were 90% silver. So you can go and you can buy a roll of dimes that, are worth probably a couple dollars each right now. Probably they're going to be worth a lot more in the near future. But you can spend these, you can trade with them because there's inherently precious metal in them. and it becomes this sort of placeholder unit that you can barter with some, old candlesticks in order to get what you need without having dollars or euros or things like that. So the point of this episode is to get you thinking about what you already have, what skills you already possess, your time, your service that you can barter, and what physical things do you already possess that would be good in a barterable situation. And this is also a great time if you've been wanting to learn something like baking bread or growing mushrooms or gardening or whatever it is. If you can combine, right, being more resilient, being more abundant, having something you could barter with a fun experience, something you wanted to learn, this is a great time to do that because there's so much change going on. It's really important to have different ways to be abundant, different ways to be resilient. And this is the last of the 5 levels of abundance, but I want to tie it all together with one more episode, and that's coming next week. That's going to be the 6th level of abundance. We're talking about a meta level of abundance, and that is your relationship. And if you've noticed, if you've thought about it, relationships can get you access to all these other 5 levels of abundance. You need people to be able to access each of these different levels of abundance. And when I lived in Bali, my friends who were entrepreneurs that employed local Balinese people, they had a hard time with making sure people always showed up for work because Balinese people valued their relationships much more highly than they valued money. So they're willing to lose a job, they're willing to lose a day's pay if somebody needed something from them. If they had to participate in a wedding or a ceremony or pull someone's car out of a ditch or any of these things, they would sacrifice the money aspect for the relationship. And it opened my eyes to just how important and how powerful relationships can be. So our final episode coming next week is how to build world-class relationships that give you access to and empower all of these different 5 levels of abundance. Thanks so much for joining me for this series. Any feedback can go to me directly, Derek@derekloudermilk.com. That's my email. And of course, sharing this with your friends, recommending this is the highest form of a compliment you can give us. If you think someone could benefit from hearing this, someone that could shift and change their thinking, please do share it with them. And of course, we love reviews on iTunes. That really helps the show out. So if you're feeling doing that, you can just go give a quick 5-star rating, or if you really feel like sharing something, you can write a quick couple sentences about what you've learned from the show, how this has shifted your thinking, and what it means to you, and how we can help each other. Because being abundant by ourselves is great, but being abundant together is really what we're going for. We want everyone in our community, we want all the people we know to really feel abundant. So first, you have to make sure that you can do what you need to do when you need to do it, so that you have the excess energy, you have the excess power, the excess abundance to start helping other people. So hopefully this series is going to help you get there, so that then you can turn around, send the elevator back down to help more people, and that's what it's all about.